my new backyard. Hey everybody, I just had the hardest 4 months of my entire life. Let me explain. Basically, my kitchen fell in from water leakage. Insurance wouldn't cover it, so I spent the next 3.5 months cutting out the floors in 4 rooms and rebuilding it. Unfortunately, my emotions at times were too high to really explain what was happening. In the meantime, the forest around us fell. Progress in industrial construction, as they say. For me, it felt like a little bit of a double whammy of frustration I didn't want to have to deal with. After a few weeks being about as low as I could get and living in the cold in our shed with no HVAC or water or bathrooms, I decided all I had was to move forward. And I must admit, digging out of a hole feels way better than falling into one. Anyhow, I received a ton of love from a few of the most amazing people who I'll never forget, and we made it through this. I chose to do the hard thing, to at least save part of what could have been lost. And now I'm stuck with this mantra in my head. Do hard things. This is the dream I had last week, the words I heard echoing in my head. I know I need it. And I have this feeling all of us do. Let me explain. This very bluff is the home to some of the most famous birds in the world, peregrine falcons, that are just over that hill. And help them requires doing something very hard. It's obviously very difficult to get over the cliffs and do the science and banding that you need to track these birds, but what's really hard is the conservation and outreach work. And to me, this bluff, this hill that I'm standing on right now, represents the beginning of a movement that is making an incomprehensible difference in conserving this area. Now, I stood on this bluff last year in a very different circumstance. It overlooks the grand Mississippi Valley. I had just started a year filming our 3rd documentary in this area with Jonas, and the true driver of all of this conservation, our friend George Howe. And this is his land. He lives in that house right there. And I met George 15 years ago when it really felt like I was a kid making films. Dan and George are our tour guides right now.
It goes down really deep. You can't even see the bottom.
I was about 30 years old. He was a biologist and a conservationist. His kids were at home trying to figure out what they wanted to do in life. Over the next decade, we made 2 films that won Emmys.
Mysteries of the Driftless, Untamed Science.
The entire production team would like to thank the Academy, especially and including Rob Nelson, my co-producer.
And we did that because we were telling powerful stories that were told in a way most people weren't. And yet beyond that, it was a testament to how true conservation filmmaking is accomplished. I learned that through this, you don't just make a film and think it'll make an impact all by itself. Instead, you need someone like our friend George Howe, who could do the work with it. And with that person, you can have many times more impact. George took the films we made, and he showed them in person over 1,000 times at the schools, libraries, and film festivals all over the upper Mississippi Valley. He pushed for people who watched the film and were inspired by it to set aside and protect their land.
Really cold.
Really? He encouraged companies to put money towards protecting bluffs, prairies, sacred sites, and the peregrine falcon sites like the one below me. In fact, millions of people can see it every day, fed by this cable running from the bluff to his internet feed. He also put in the hard work on his land. This prairie behind me, that takes fire, which is difficult, grueling work. And I'm saddened to explain that I'm here right at the moment because he died last week here, working on his land, and I am here to go to the funeral. I'm here to listen to stories and meet people who knew him, maybe help his legacy continue onwards. I can tell you though that Jonas and I are making our last film on the Driftless. This will be the 3rd in a series, and I can't help but think the story just changed a little bit. To me, the story is about recognizing the ability we all have to make beauty around us. What is the future we want, and how are we going to get there? For George, he recognized the natural beauty. He knew how extremely important these ancient bluffs were, not only to the wildlife, but to the awe everyone in the area can have if they're left standing wild in all their glory. He was doing the impossible by pushing for the protection of places like this. He was doing hard things, and this hill truly is the hill he died on. Now, I know there are others of you who are doing amazing work. You're taking a stand. You're doing what you can to help protect wild areas, to rewild areas that were once farmland and now can be prairies, kind of like the one we're in right now. But I would love to know who you are. Let me know in the comments down below, whether that's you or you know that person and you like to share who that is. Because, well, we share that vision, and hopefully I can connect and share stories like the one of George here in Mississippi Valley, but other places that I work around the globe as well. Now, I know until now I haven't told everybody exactly what happened to, everything here at the house, but I think that's in part because I was embarrassed. Some people did know, like George. He sent me this text and said he was thinking a lot about my family and I, and that meant a lot. George was somebody who cared, and he was doing so much to help everyone else. And I was thinking, what am I doing? All of the educational work that I'm doing has really been focused on trying to get people to be someone like George, somebody who learned as much as they could about the environment and then became a teacher themselves. But if you don't have someone like George, how do you get there? Is that I've created something called mywild.online. Those are courses. Now, if you are on Patreon, you will get free access to these courses. That's just the perk of going there and helping support the work that I'm doing. And you'll also be able to tell me what are some of the courses that you want? What are the things you want to learn about? Also, I should note, this week I took pieces of that wood floor that I cut out and I etched on them "Do Hard Things." And I have 50 of those to send out to the people who join in now on Patreon to help support this educational work that I'm doing. I hope all of you have enjoyed the content that I've made, and we'll see you in the next video.